Welcome to the D.E.A.D podcast, where I discuss all things spooky and weird. I'm Desi. Today, I'll be talking about Christmas creeps. Let's get started. Hey everyone, how is everyone doing tonight? Hope everyone's doing good in this Creepmas season. I am currently in a different location. I am actually dog sitting, house sitting, so I have a guest co-host. Hopefully he won't be talking, but he's very cute and fluffy. So he is currently sitting right next to me because apparently he likes the sound of my voice. And so he will be joining me for this episode. I decided to name this Christmas Creeps because basically I'm going to be talking about like three different Christmas creepy tales, but they're not all goblins and it's not all like witches. So I just said, I'm going to call them Christmas Creeps. So that's what that is. So it's going to be three different tales. So get ready for that. And I'm drinking a wine. It's like a watermelon, I think. Yeah, it's Stella Rosa Watermelon Reserve. And it says it's semi-sweet. And it's really good. Of course, I will post a picture. And then my spooky shirt for tonight, it has Ghostface, Jason, and Michael Myers on it. And it has like a bloody handprint, bloody specks thrown on it. And then in the middle, it has a coffee cup, like a to-go coffee cup with Freddy Krueger's like hand over it, and it says "Will kill for coffee." I love it. So that's the one I'm wearing tonight. Let's get into this. Like many other European countries, Greece has its fair share of odd or creepy Christmas traditions. Among them, the mischievous Kallikantzaroi may be the scariest. The Kallikantzaroi are tiny goblins who emerge from beneath the Earth's surface during the holiday season. According to Greek folklore, these creatures aim to cause chaos by stealing sweets and creating havoc in people's homes. The belief is rooted in the notion that they are free to roam until January 6th because Christ has not yet been baptized and therefore cannot protect humanity from evil. It is believed that Kallikantzaroi stay underground, sawing the trunk of the tree that holds the earth, so that it will collapse along with the earth. However, according to folklore, when the final part of the trunk is about to be sawed, Christmas dawns, and the Kallikantzaroi are able to come to the surface. They forget the tree and come to bring trouble to mortals. Finally, on the Epiphany, January 6th, which commemorates both the day the Magi visited Jesus, acknowledging that he was the Son of God, and the day that Jesus was later baptized, the sun starts moving again and they must return underground to continue their sawing. They see that during their absence, the world tree has healed itself, so they must start working all over again. This is believed to occur every year. Described as grotesque and eerie, the Kallikantzaroi are small, dark, hairy creatures with elongated ears, sharp claws, and glowing red eyes. Legends speak of their shaggy hair, long tails, and twisted, contorted bodies. These goblins are often portrayed as unsettling and monstrous, evoking fear among those who encounter them. The Kallikantzarow's physical appearance emphasizes their otherworldly and malevolent characteristics, adding to the chilling allure of these mythical beings. The Kallikantzaroi have a significant connection with the winter solstice. As the days become shorter and the nights grow longer, the ancient Greek folklore tells of these mischievous creatures emerging from the depths of the earth. According to Greek lore, the earth is vulnerable to the intrusion of supernatural beings during the winter solstice. In Greek tradition, the hibernal solstice marks a time of chaos when the veil between the earthly realm and the underworld is the thinnest. The Kallikantzaroi cause mischief and havoc during the 12 days of Christmas, stretching from December 25th to January 6th in Greek tradition. The festive season is a time of vulnerability because people are preoccupied with celebrations and rituals, leaving them susceptible to pranks and tricks of these goblin like creatures. The Kallikantzaroi cause mischief and havoc during the 12 days of Christmas, stretching from December 25th to January 6th in Greek tradition. The festive season is a time of vulnerability because people are preoccupied with celebrations and rituals, leaving them susceptible to the pranks and tricks of these goblin like creatures. The Kallikantzarow's antics aim to disrupt the joy and harmony of the holiday season. The Greek Christmas goblins can do anything from stealing household items to creating general disorder in homes, such as overturning furniture, hiding belongings, and even frightening the livestock. They sound a lot like the Yule lads, don't they? Although the Christmas goblins are just mythical figures, many Greek families, especially in rural areas, keep the legend alive by employing various traditional measures to safeguard their homes. One such method was to leave a colander on the doorstep to trick the visiting Kallikantzaroi. You see, they are not very bright, and apparently they can't count past 3. It was believed, since they could not count above 3, as 3 was believed to be a holy number, such as the Holy Trinity, and by pronouncing it, the Kallikantzaroi would supposedly kill itself. The Kallikantzaroi would sit at the doorstep all night, counting each hole of the colander, until the sun rose and it was forced to hide. One common practice involves hanging a pig's jawbone or a holly branch over the front door to ward off the goblins. In some cultures, it is tradition to throw lucumades. I don't know if that's how you say it, but it's a donut-like dessert filled with syrup. That sounds good. And sausages on the roof and sing a specific song. It is believed the Kallikantzaroi will eat these and leave. Another supposed method of protection from these goblins was to leave the fire burning in the fireplace all night during those 12 days so that they could not enter through it. In other areas, I guess kind of like Santa Claus, in other areas, people would throw foul-smelling shoes into the fire to repel the Kallikantzaroi. Additionally, some Greeks mark their doors with a black cross on Christmas Eve and burn incense to protect their homes from these malevolent creatures. According to the legend, any child born during the 12 days of Christmas was in danger of transforming into a Kallikantzaroi during each Christmas season, starting with adulthood. It was believed that the antidote to prevent this transformation was to bind the baby in garlic or straw, or to singe the baby's toenails. Okay, so this next one I'm going to be talking about Frau Perchta. In Germanic pagan tradition, the goddess Berchta, or Bertha, which meant bright or shining one, protected women and children. Bertha, the Lady in White, or White Lady, was considered the Alpine cousin of Frau Holly and the Nordic goddess Frigga. As the White Lady, she was associated with beautiful birch trees and watched over the forest and all the wildlife in it. She was the spirit guide who led the dead into the afterlife. Her duty was to care for Heimchen, or the children who died in infancy. Berchta was considered the goddess of in-between place. So I guess like purgatory? She can be found between safety and danger, between life and death, but Berchta's dual nature meant that she was also depicted as an old crone, the Spinnstubenfrau, with a splayed foot, possibly from years of working the treadle on a spinning wheel, or a goose foot, suggesting that she may have been a shapeshifter who cared for animals, and a cane. As women became a larger part of the economy with their spinning and weaving. Berkta checked to make sure young women had completed their spinning for the year. Laziness was not tolerated. Looms were to be set up on January 6th. If the work wasn't completed in time, you wouldn't have enough thread for the warp. Women especially looked to Berkta, this southern German cousin to Frau Holly, because she was a goddess of abundance. She cared for children and for domestic issues. During this time, there was a high infant mortality, and women needed to believe their lost babies would be cared for in the afterlife. Berkta looked after the Heimchen, the spirits of children who died before they could be baptized. On Birkentag, January 6th, women would cook a special porridge, later called Perchtenmilch, a gruel with fish, to feed the family, and always leave a bowl out for Perchta and her followers. It was said that if Berkta enjoyed the offering, the family would receive blessings for the year. The Catholic Church held great power over Bavaria in the 6th century and insisted that pagan practice be renounced. Still, many people did not want to change. Women did not want to give up their goddess. The church began to speak out against Berkta from the pulpit, accusing people of praying to Domina Perchta instead of the Virgin Mary. By the 12th century, the church, using fear tactics, renowned Berkta and called her Perchta. Perchten are frightening monsters, and Berkta, now Perchta, was the leader of the monsters. The beautiful white goddess was painted as an ugly crone, with an iron face and a hooked nose, who carried a knife in her skirt to slit the bellies of anyone who crossed her. Despite this, people kept worshipping her. Finally, in 1468, the church officials outlawed the cult of Perchta in the Thesaurus Pauperum. It forbade leaving Perchta offerings during the Christmas season. And worse, new legends emerged that Frau Perchta would kill you by slitting your stomach open and stuff it with straw and stones if your home wasn't clean enough or you hadn't finished your spinning. Essentially, church officials at the time turned her into a female Krampus. Also remember, the year between 1450 and 1700 is known as the Burning Times in German history. The country dealt with the Protestant Revolution, the 13 Years' War, and political instability. During the time, around 100,000 people were accused of witchcraft, and many were killed. Fear and uncertainty were a powerful motivator. According to the legend, if a child were found to be a liar, Perchta would scrape out his eyeballs with glass. If she was unsatisfied with your behavior, left a dirty home, or, worst of all, if the spinning for the year wasn't finished, she would slice open your belly and stuff it with straw and pebbles, and then stomp the unfinished work with her deformed goose foot. In Austria, groups calling themselves Perchten would dress in masks and costumes and perform rituals to frighten away the ghostly followers of Perchta and wake up the spirits of the new year. But along with the ugly Perchten, there were also beautiful Perchten, a reflection of Berchta's white woman who would bring luck to villagers. The church again banned these traditions, but they were never completely lost. Now, on to the third and final, Hans Trapp. So, we've talked about the tale of the Kallikantzaroi, the tiny goblins, and we've discussed Frau Perchta, the shape-shifting Christmas witch, but the terrifying Hans Trapp is possibly the worst of all. One story in particular describes an instance in which he stabbed a child, sliced him into tiny pieces, and cooked and ate his flesh. The legend of the Christmas Scarecrow is well known in the French regions of Alsace and Lorraine. Hans Trapp, according to the story, lived in the 1400s. He was a rich, powerful, and merciless man who was feared by the people of Alsace. His thirst for power was so great that he turned to deals with the devil to enhance his power and status. He basically sold his soul to Satan. Hearing of this, the Catholic Church and the Pope excommunicated Trapp, after which he was banished from Alsace and his titles, lands, and money were confiscated. Trapp was reduced to constructing a makeshift home in the mountains of Bavaria in Germany, and the legend goes, here he continued to brood, and his evil desires festered. He dedicated himself to practicing black magic and the occult. He ended up losing his mind from isolation. Hans went from obsessing over power to wanting revenge on those who wronged him. He developed a hankering to try the taste of human flesh. Finally, he became the dreaded Christmas Scarecrow. Embellished in straw as a disguise, he waited on lonely roads for a victim to come by. A boy, aged around 10, happened to cross his path one day, and Trapp stabbed the unfortunate shepherd's boy with a vicious, sharp stick. With the body safely back at his lair, Trapp sliced it into pieces and roasted it. But before he could eat it, he was struck by a divine lightning bolt and killed. Today, naughty children are warned that Hans Trapp's spirit lingers on and that he may visit them in his scarecrow disguise if they don't behave. A popular boogeyman and frightening tall tale, but this story was inspired by a real person. Hans von Trotha was a knight who lived from 1450 to 1503. He commanded two castles in the Palatine territory, but became embroiled in an argument with the church over property. The abbot would not concede certain properties to von Trotha, so the embittered knight stopped the supply of water to the nearby town of Weissenberg with a dam. In retaliation, the abbot had the dam destroyed, which flooded the villagers' homes and businesses. The dispute continued until, just as with Hans Trapp, the knight was summoned by the Pope himself and excommunicated. Even excommunicated, the wily von Trotha did well for himself. Serving the French royal court, he was given the Cavalier d'Or by King Louis XII. On his death, all charges against him were reversed and forgiven. Something of his notoriety lived on, though, and not only in Hans Trapp. Local legends also refer to him as the Black Knight, a formidable specter that was also sometimes said to accompany Santa Claus and punish children who were unworthy of gifts. So those are the three Christmas creeps. So one's a goblin, the other one's a shape-shifting witch of some kind, and this third one is a crazy cannibal knight. Those are some interesting tales, and I really want to know what y'all think about them. Have you heard of them? Let me know. I have not heard of any of them before, ever. So I'm having a lot of fun reading and learning about these different Christmas lore and tales and everything. But let me know if you've heard of them and just let me know what you think. That brings me to the end of this episode. Thanks for listening to the D.E.A.D podcast. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at the D.E.A.D podcast. Also, feel free to send in your stories, episode suggestions, or feedback at the D.E.A.D podcast1 at gmail.com or send me a DM on Instagram. If you enjoy this show, please rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you are listening on And be sure to come back next week for my next episode.